welcome back to another penny stock video. Today we're going to be looking at CATV. They're in the middle of a name change to be called Category 5 Biotech, so they're no longer going to be called 4 Cable TV. Very exciting new stock that I've picked up on recently. Let's get into what the story is, but first and foremost, let's take a look at the share structure as we always do. You can see we're at an 8 million market cap, authorized shares of 500 million. With an OS of, or 500 billion with an OS of 4.3 billion. So almost maxed authorized shares. Held at DTC, which is our float, is 2.8 billion. Little bigger share structure than what we're used to. But this actually trades much thinner than a 2.8 billion float. As to why, I don't know. That doesn't really matter to us. We care about the reality, and the reality is it does trade a lot thinner than a 2.8 billion float. Trades really nice. So that's our share structure for CATV. You know, the one big advantage I think to this is it is close to being maxed out on the authorized shares, which is always nice to see. Aside from that, pretty standard. Let's take a look at what makes CATV really attractive to me. So as you can see from one of their most recent press releases here on May 15th, you see Category 5 Biotech Inc. announces letter of intent to acquire Genetic Networks, expanding into biotechnology sector. So this is a merger play. We've covered a bunch of mergers on this channel before. We've had a lot of success with them. It's one of my favorite style of trades in the OTC is these merger plays because they provide something fresh and new and something to be excited about. So this is from May 15th. They signed this LOI with Genetic Networks LLC. You can see they have the website here, geneticnetworks.com. We're going to take a look at that in just a moment. But you see here it talks about Genetic Network brings a proprietary platform known as GeneScape, which facilitates the rapid and unbiased discovery of optimal drug compounds through the whole genome analysis. By integrating functional assays of drug activity and human gene variants, GeneScape can identify the most promising targets and compounds for specific diseases, expediting development times and reducing costs. So, this is actually a pretty darn special merger here. Let's take a closer look at what Genetic Networks is and who's actually behind Genetic Networks, because that's when it starts to get really, really exciting, and that's when it starts to show you why CATV has piqued my interest so much. So here is Genetic Networks' website. It's accelerating drug asset development through applied modular biology. All right, here's the description. Scroll down, they talk about this GeneScape platform that they have. Right, what is GeneScape? A multi-dimensional map of diseases and drugs. Okay, now that all sounds well and good. A little bit of medical talk. Not everyone will understand that, but what you will understand is the leadership of this company, as well as this little tidbit here, which is 3 top 10 biopharmas are already leveraging our GeneScape platform. So who are the top 10 biopharmas right now? We have Pfizer, AbbVie, Johnson & Johnson, Merck, Novartis, Roche, Bristol Myers Squibb, Sanofi, AstraZeneca, and GSK. Okay, 3 of these 10 are currently already using the GeneScape platform, according to the Genetic Networks website. So who is behind Genetic Networks? This is the most exciting part. When we take a look at the leadership page, you'll see why it's a really, really unique merger for the OTC. First and foremost, let's talk about Leland Hartwell, PhD, co-founder of Genetic Networks. You can see here that Leonard Hartwell is an American scientist who actually won the Nobel Prize for Physiology or Medicine in 2001 for discovering key regulators of the cell cycle. Graduated from MIT in 1964 with his PhD. Very, very impressive leadership right off the bat, especially for something that's going into an OTC shell. Obviously, you know, having a scientist that's literally a Nobel Prize winner backing this merger is something to be quite excited about, but it doesn't end there. The leadership resumes continue to get better. Here's Corey Nislow, PhD. And Corey here, if you look into him, was mentioned in this article on nasa.gov. If we just Control F Corey here, there he is on the far right, working on projects for the International Space Station. So now they have a Nobel Prize winning scientist and they have a scientist that has worked on projects in the International Space Station. Okay, very impressive. As we continue forward, they have James Haywood. We're going to talk about James in just a moment. They also have Stephen Friend on the advisors list, and Stephen Friend is actually a very ex-key employee from Apple. So you can see here, Yahoo Finance article, Apple just hired a guy who could completely reinvent the company. This is from 2016, and that guy was this man, Stephen Friend, who was an executive at Merck as well. And remember that Merck is on this list of top 10 biopharmas, so they very well may be one of these 3 top 10 biopharmas that are already using GeneScape. Okay, and he was one of the key members of Apple Health for a couple of years. He helped develop this product for Apple with his company Sage Bionetworks, this Parkinson Empower app, which ended up becoming ResearchKit, which was made by Apple Health. So he was a pretty key employee at Apple with another really excellent resume. And then the last guy we'll take a look at here is James Haywood. All right, so let's take a look at this thread from my friend Armin on Twitter. You can follow him at armstock_. He posted a lot of really great DD on CATV today and compiled it all into one thread, which was great. So I figured I'd highlight that in this video. And he does talk about Jamie Haywood a bit in this thread. You can see he has some pretty significant endorsements on LinkedIn from some pretty significant people here. So he is the CEO and chairman at Alden Scientific. Right, and here are some of the people that have endorsed him on LinkedIn. You have Michelle Farr, Vice President of NXP Semiconductor, which did $3.3 billion revenue in 2023. And you have Philip Huang, Vice President of Sanofi Genzyme, generated $43 billion in revenue in 2023. And you can see that Sanofi is another company on this list of top 10 pharmaceuticals in the world. So now we have leadership from Genetic Networks that's linked to Merck, and that's linked to Sanofi. So things are starting to get real interesting in that sense. Okay, and then here's just a quick look at Michelle Farr and Philip Huang and their companies. If we scroll down, let's take a look at, we talked about Corey Nilso already, who worked on the International Space Station. Here's some of his endorsements. We have Sean Stevens, Project Manager at International Space Station, generated $900 million. And Caro Juno, I apologize if I'm saying that name wrong, but Senior Director of Nautilus Biotechnology, $240 million in cash and $370 million MC. Okay, so, and you can see Corey performs genome for ISS. So another member of the team at Genetic Networks getting some serious endorsements from some really serious people. Here's more information on one of the other advisors of Genetic Networks, Sebastian Fopema. You can see provided services to Fortune 500 companies like Airbus, BMW, Procter & Gamble, NBC Universal, AstraZeneca. CEO of SmartShift, 268 employees, $43 million in revenue in 2023. So he's the CEO of a pretty big company with a really good track record, and endorsed by Tricia Donovan, advisory board of TCS, which has $29.1 billion revenue. So more really, really good finds on the management team of Genetic Networks through LinkedIn here. And then here's more information on Stephen Friend, which we already covered, such as his work for Apple, right? And all of the articles. He had Forbes articles, Yahoo, CNBC, ABC, all wrote articles about him and his work at Apple. So he was a pretty big deal with that. And that pretty much covers the bulk of all of the impressive leadership that's going on with Genetic Networks. Clearly, between the leadership and the fact that they already work with 3 of these top 10 biopharmas, it makes it one of the most exciting OTC mergers, if not the most exciting OTC merger on the market right now. If we look back at this PR, right, you can see wherever it says it, but somewhere it says here that it does close. They're anticipating the merger closes at the end of the quarter, and that is in 1 week. So it's pretty much imminent at this point. And I do expect they have a Twitter and everything. So I do expect that we hear from them soon on news of completing this merger and when it's complete. I mean, it's really brings a lot of value to the table, I would think, for CATV, the stock. Now, what else is interesting about this is if you check their filings, you can see here that they even have a lawsuit going on with this other company where they have damages potentially over 18.4 million. So if they win this lawsuit, they're going to have a massive payday as well. So that could be another potential future catalyst for the stock. And then if we look at the chart here, you can see, whoa, tons of room on the chart. Now this is zoomed out to the 5-year time frame because this was a stock that went caveat emptor and it wasn't tradable for basically 2.5 years. It was basically dormant and untradeable for 2.5 years. But they got the caveat emptor removed. It's now tradable again. And you can see that in the past, it really was much, much higher price. So if the stock even goes back to half of these prices, I mean, that's a huge return from here, right? We're 002 right now. You know, there's room at least to this 200 MA, which is more than double from where we're at 0043. And then above that, you know, there's room here to over a penny and more. So that's the advantage, I guess, of having gone CE, is it creates this really good chart setup now where there's tons and tons of room for this to run. So I think that just about covers everything on CATV that I wanted to talk about. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.